basically we're notifying the public what the maximum we can spend. And just a note on that, one thing that you'll approve later in the budget or in the meeting tonight is we're going to amend the budget as well. It's illegal to overspend the budget, so you have to amend it. And we received COVID dollars and things like that, so we'll be amending the budget. But it sets the maximum and also sets the property tax rate.
And what was are you showing the proposed change in that?
We got that later in the slides.
Okay.
What you're looking at, Steve, is the current year's budget and the amendment we're going to do to change it, but that's in the regular session.
Yeah. Well, I've also got this other sheet
Yeah.
here.
And that will,
This.
yeah.
Can't hardly read it.
There are the budget categories that are part of the budget. Next one, Laura. And again, the certified budget, it's the total tax rate is what we're looking at. Okay. And we'll look basically our revenues and expenditures, and those are estimates that we'll look at on here. Okay. As we've talked before, when we're looking at budget, basically all driven by enrollment. So that's what we're looking at. We were down 40 students in enrollment. We'll see a little bit later. We're on the budget guarantee. You know, we've got 101% guarantee from the previous year. But that's one of the biggest factors. But you can look there. Our preschool budget or preschool enrollment is there. Management fund, we're looking at increasing from $656,000 last year to $700,000. That's where retirement benefits come out of. Those people that took early retirement, so we bumped that up a little bit. Insurance also comes out of management.
And also the last few years we've had to borrow to get, from general fund to management to get through the first payments and get things kind of go back up.
Okay. And that just kind of looks at expenditures by fund. The biggest thing to probably point out there is the sales tax and facility funds. We're going down almost $10 million because, again, that's, we're done with construction. Mm-hmm. That was built in the school, this past year. So that's why that figure is down. Okay, Lauren. And revenues by fund. Again, looking at increasing the management a little bit. Okay. Tax rate is probably the one that we look at the most. And it's our goal when Brenda and I meet, and we work through this with Forecast 5 as well, because the biggest thing we're trying to maintain the tax rate as best we can. So current tax rate is $14.55 per thousand of taxable valuation. This budget, again, the proposed would be $14.54, which is down just slightly.
And is part of that down because our property values are up, because our total number of dollars is up a little bit, right?
Again, our taxable valuation went up about 2%, which I think we'll see that on one of the next slides. It went up slightly.
Okay.
This is just general fund right here. And again, as I mentioned, one of the key things, the $173,000 is budget guarantee. That's because our enrollment is down. We're able to, again, still tax back for 101%, but that comes out of local property tax. So is the budget guarantee. Again, general fund is kind of comparison. Uniform levy, again, I don't know how much I've explained this before. Uniform levy is every single, that's the equal part in the state of Iowa. Every single school district gets taxed $5.40 based on their property, and that gets everybody up to a certain level. And then from there up to 87.5% is state aid. And then anything above that is back to local property tax. And again, there's the actual form that's too small to read, as Steve mentioned. We'll go to the next one. The next one is the top half of the previous form. Just kind of shows a comparison over the course of 3 years. And again, as I mentioned before, the down 62% there, that's the construction, that took place the previous years. And that's what we're looking at certifying. Okay. A lot of info and very quick. Questions?
Totally confused. There's a lot of stuff there. I mean, you guys, it takes a long time to work all this up, huh?
To be honest, it doesn't. Enrollment drives 99.9% of it now.
Okay.
We do, earlier in the year, you guys approved dropout prevention. That was approved before, which is 411,000. That's a part of the budget. Special ed deficit that was approved before that we can tax back for that is part of it. We just need to determine how much we want to tax back for. Again, the management that we talked about. And then there's a cash reserve as well that you could put on.
So the message to the public basically is we're lowering the levy rate, but it's probably, your taxes are probably still going to go up a little bit because of the valuations, right?
Correct. It's, again, our goal is to pretty much hold it stable, but yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think valuations went up 2%. The TIF dollars went up, but not as much as previous years.
So the valuation went up because everybody's valuation went up, or because we added additional property? Because the wind generators come in as additional property.
Incremental, are they coming in yet though?
I think they were coming in even at the time of our.
They come in.
It's incremental though, right?
It increases
Yeah.
5. I mean, it was like 5%, 10, and then it caps at 30,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, I have to ask John, he'd know about all that.
But most of that's I think goes into the TIF. Just in terms of, that's the line item that they're in.
Well, they list it there because you only tip if you apply for it. Otherwise, it just goes into the property tax.
Yeah.
But the county is tipped all that. That's what's helping.
Yeah, you
pay.
tip
That's
certain-
what's happening
Yes.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The academy. What was our actual budget, Brenda, approximately before we got in the building project? Was it, you remember?
We're in that 15 to 16 million
Yeah.
range.
Mhm.
A lot of money.
But the building of the budget is very complicated, but there's so few things that we have any control over. Like if you look at that aid and levy, it's just lines and lines and lines of stuff, but we don't have a lot of control over it because.
So the state spits that out too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of it's enrollment and there's special ed.
Well, that's what I've told a lot of
Special
people,
ed.
you know, really when it comes right down to it, on a local level, you have very little control over very much, you know, because it's all dictated by number one, your enrollment.
Yeah.
Number two, the state pretty much pulls the purse strings on everything else, don't they? So you really don't have a lot of local control except for the levy rate and the.
And again, the other thing that we continue to do or will continue to do is the income surtax
Yeah,
is continue a part of this, that ours is at 12%. It's 8% for the instructional support levy, and then it's 4% for voter approved public.
Yeah. But this budget is gonna suffice
Could go on
to
that
not
is-
have to.
20%.
is
Positions,
20%.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're still gonna replace all those people that did the early retirement.
Yeah.
And that's good news.
Hopefully, we'll have to see what enrollment does.
Yeah.
Sure.
We might have to adjust.
We just have to pass it all off.
The income surtax is.
Yeah, we gotta hope that
I hear the most complaining
we get
about.
some of those back.
Correct.
And part of it is because when you estimate your state income tax, most estimators don't include that surtax. So Greene County pays this surtax and the Carroll County people don't. And so we get people mad because they didn't get a refund.
But a surtax
But
is
it's,
actually
it's part of they should understand that. It's not like it's new. They should be.
and a surtax is actually a tax on the income tax you pay, not a tax on your income.
Right.
So,
But it adds a little bit that they pay, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
You figure out what your state income tax is,
Right.
and
then
then 4% of that, or 12% for our district, then
Yeah.
they'd have to pay additional to that. And people don't necessarily always plan for that because they don't look at the.
but it's helping relieve property tax. by
Absolutely.
doing
I mean, that's what I try to tell people. It's a property tax.
That's-
It's something the state legislature did for property tax relief because everybody's complaining about property tax.
Yeah.
And so it spreads the load a little bit over the entire population and people who aren't necessarily property tax owners.
That's to say, it puts a burden on people that don't own property that hopefully try to even that out.
Other than enrollment, what are some of the other concerns that we have moving forward with budgetary things?
The enrollment is number one.
Yeah, I know, that's number one.
Yeah, but I don't even know that there is a number.
And then
Okay.
number one, until we get to
Location.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's why we've got to do everything we can to keep people in school, you know, we got to work on programs and, yeah, keep vigilant there, so.
Any questions?
Not intelligent ones.
That was good discussion. Those are all intelligent things. So again, we'll look at, it'll be in the regular meeting, but there's a public hearing on the 12th at 5:15.
This isn't something we're going to approve. We're going to approve a public.
Yeah, in the regular meeting, it's just set the public hearing.
You're basically ordering me to publish and,
April 12th,
Which will be
5:15.
yes.
Which will be April 12th, and then we will approve the budget
yes.
after that.
Questions? If not, I think we'll go into reports.
Do you want to do this?
Yeah, why don't you?
Just quick thing, and the Greene County Fair Association, the Extension Service, are put together a memorandum of understanding. And basically what it has done is put down on paper all the things that we've done over the last 70 plus years. And says whose responsibility it is. So maintaining the buildings is the Fair Board's responsibility. The extension is responsible for the 4-H shows and things that they do that are part of the fair. FFA is involved because FFA students can participate. So they would like to have us approve this memorandum of understanding. So there's a place for Raylan to sign, for Tim to sign, and for me as president to sign. If you'd like a copy of it all, I can give it to you, or you can look at it
Yeah, pass it around.
briefly and send it
Briefly
back
go through
around. It's probably not going to be signed now because they still have a few things to do in the committee, and then the extension council and the fair board have to meet and sign it first before they send it back to us.
And we could put that on a future agenda too, to make it a little more official.
Yeah, if we need to have the whole board approve it, or if you just, it's okay if we sign it, however we do it. But we might have to have it on the agenda for next month just to get it approved. It shouldn't be a big thing, but. Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, so we're going to reports, so then we,
Committee reports? Or
Nothing admin, is it?
Right.
non-action items or reports?
Mhm.
Would that be committee reports?
Can be. Mhm. Got some?
Well, we just had the administrative salary committee meeting the other day, Mike and I and Tim, and went over all the salaries and everything looked fine,
Yeah.
so.
that'll be in.
Yeah, that's on the agenda. I see that for
Yeah.
approval. I just thought I'd
Yep.
mention that, so.
That's good. And the other committee thing, just to give you a heads up, I'll be getting scholarship stuff to you and Mike here in the next couple weeks, probably. Just give you a heads up that you guys are on that committee.
Tim and I met with Sam over the final barrage of change orders, which are in the agenda.
Yeah.
And Sam's going to be here later to kind of answer questions.
Review
about
those.
Any of those things.
There's quite a few, wasn't there?
Yeah, and some of them we've already acted upon.
Yeah.
So they aren't all new ones. He just has them all lumped together. Some of them are old ones, and some of them are ones that he feels strongly that we need to take back to the architect because they have some responsibility and they should be.
When I read through that list, I wonder, why was this stuff in the original plan, some of it, why do we have to have it on as add-ons and change orders and
Yeah,
stuff?
we've had that discussion with
And some of it was
OPM,
submitted.
it's still ingoing.
Yeah.
Some of it was errors. And what did Sam say? The original cost is $1. If you add it on before the construction, it's $10. And if you add it on after construction, it's $100
Yeah,
or $1,000 or something.
I get
I mean,
that.
it's just incremental because
That's the
you have to go
analogy
back and
behind it.
tear it up and redo it. It's, yeah.
Yeah. So Sam's job is not done yet, huh?
Not quite.
When do we settle with OPM once and for all?
Like I said, we started that conversation and I think we'll continue it here in the next couple of weeks.
I mean, obviously,
See, part of
we're
that-
not gonna put it done yet, so I was just,
Part of the middle school project is going to extend over the next
right.
2 to 3 summers, depending on how we want to do it. And we're
Correct.
contemplating just taking a break this summer and then maybe doing all of the work that needs to be done the following summer.
Fire alarm, or not fire alarm.
This sprinkler system has to be put in. And the fire marshal allowed us 3 years to have that happen. And so we put it on because the finances before, now we've kind of gotten additional finances. We could do it a little faster, but we're all pretty fatigued of
Yeah.
There's
some construction right now.
For instance, I was kind of going through these change orders and it's got delete ceiling paint at C custodial office, but it's got an add-on for it. It's got a plus
Right,
$1,544.
and some of those change orders where you said, we really don't need the paint, so why spend the money on it? So
No.
we get the money back.
No, but I mean, it doesn't, it's not in parentheses like it's a debit. I didn't understand. Why would that be a
Sam.
Sam will know? Okay. Sam knows it.
Sam.
I didn't go through these real close, but I was looking at some of them, wondering why they were the way they were, but. Hand dryer wall protection, $3,700.
The hand dryers,
They splash.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and the paint coming off the walls. So
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, to me, if you're gonna put it in hand writers, wouldn't that be part of the deal? I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like some of the door things.
Which door things?
Well, they gave us a door, but they didn't include the locks. So the change orders, we had to buy back and buy a whole bunch of locks.
Wow. See that?
Just the detail that goes on, if it's not written down, I guess they don't bring it.
Well, everybody thinks that just because their architects are perfect and they're not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that fence we were talking about
Correct.
today, around the little preschool area there, the high school on the north side, that fenced area is about this big,
Design it, you think it's perfect. But
And, well,
They're little kids.
who was thinking that, I mean, that's such a small little cage. It's really not, it's hardly usable, so.
California,
Oh, boy.
Hold your chickens.
anything else? Otherwise, we'll go to
That's
admin
Yeah.
reports. Mr. Phillips.
I better do an audio check. Am I coming through?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we got enough wind here in Glidden. Mary Poppins could come rolling in any second.
Yeah.
Just some things upcoming. We have our Iowa Central Open House on Monday, March 22nd. Students can enroll for classes, visit one-on-one for financial aid information, scholarships, and most importantly, maybe food will be provided. Speaking of food, Ram Restaurant opens the next day on Tuesday, March 23rd. So that's a good thing to get that up and running. Thanks to everyone involved in the play. Just excellent overall. I mean, I was very impressed. If you got a chance to see that, you were in for a treat. Prom will take place on April 10th. We're going to have the grand march in the theater / auditorium. The meal and dance will be held at Wild Rose, and then we'll have an after prom party at the rec center. So very glad to let kids have that memory and get prom rolling again. Thanks to Teresa Green and Mrs. Carmen and Mrs. Gray and everyone involved in that. We're having some small discussions, some small committee discussion and with the faculty on semesters and trimesters. Nothing's decided, just having some conversations about those two. And tomorrow we have our dodgeball tournament. It's not open to the public for spectators, but the kids are always excited about that every year, and we're going to make sure that we have that memory too. So no spectators tomorrow, but the student teams can play tomorrow in the gym. That's all I got.
Brian, is that going to be live? Like, can I watch it somewhere?
It's a great question.
Dodgeball?
I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah.
I'll find out. Maybe it
That's what
can
you can
be.
do, yeah.
The National High School
Federation.
Federation,
Live stream.
I doubt if dodgeball is one of the things that they can.
Why not?
That's all the movie.
Yeah.
Mr. Zanders? Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to publicly thank Boost for their continued sponsorship of student activities here at the middle school this spring. I know they probably had a very down year last year in terms of having to have a virtual fundraiser event. So all of their continued support would otherwise be appreciated, but this year it's extra special. So we're very grateful to them for the support. During the regular board meeting tonight, I'm submitting 2 teacher candidates for your approval, one for 8th grade science and one for 8th grade math. I feel like we've got good candidates. We were fortunate this year, and given these times that we had people who were quality applicants and wanted to consider Greene County as a stopping point in their career, hopefully for a long time. But we're very excited about the people we're submitting to you this evening. I wanted to recognize some of my staff for the extra time evenings. We don't normally have people into the buildings during the day, so a lot of after school time to do interviews. Mrs. Unken was in on both the math and the science. And then for science, Mr. Merck and Miss Mankin were part of the team. And then in math, Mrs. Highnote and Mrs. Talene were part of the team. So we're excited about those candidates. Big thing this week is our middle school play to follow up the high school performance last week. We are in the middle school building in the auditorium. Friday, the sixth graders will perform at 6 o'clock with doors not opening until 5:30. We are planning on only 50% attendance capacity. So that's about 200 people, and families of the performers, the students, will get 5 tickets each, and then we'll allow people in until we're full. And then that's all that can get in. So that's 6 o'clock for the sixth grade, 7:30 for the seventh and eighth grade. Should give us time to do a little disinfecting and cleaning between those two performances. Building team planning on end of the year professional learning activities right now to help build our own capacity, but also to help meet the requirements of our targeted assistance plan through the state of Iowa. We'll be focusing on Tier 1 instruction, which is the teaching and learning that all kids receive in the classroom. But then we're going to expand it also to talk about Tier 2 and 3, which is the instruction we give to a smaller number of students, those who have gaps in their learning. So that will be coming up at the end of the year and some of those extra days that we have. And then I couldn't help but hear Mr. Fisher talk about painting in the custodial office. I would be happy to save $1,000, and I will not paint the ceiling for $500 if you'd like. And I would throw in any additional rooms you don't want painted. We'll only charge you $250. So I think
Thanks.
you bet.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Well, at least it's a windy night, not a night like last night that we have to all be stuck inside. Big thing for us, last week we had conferences at the elementary school. We did not do them in person. We did them virtually. Just really didn't want to run the risk, 2 weeks before we go on spring break of getting some teachers exposed and then running through all of that process. So we did them virtually. It went very well. Parents had a choice of doing it either phone or by a Google Meet, similar to what we're doing here. So those went well for everybody. Just as we talk about some of these things, I think, having those virtual conferences in the future, when we do get back to in person, it's going to give us another avenue to do it for some of those parents that aren't going to be able to make it on a basis. Some of them have 3 or 4 kids, and getting to conferences at night is difficult. So being able to do it virtually with a teacher, I think, is going to be a benefit for some of our families. As Mr. Zanders said, I have several teachers on the agenda tonight to be hired. Our last candidate actually accepted this morning, so they're on there. So, and we had great candidates this time. I mean, everybody we brought in to interview, we felt was a hireable person. So it's kind of a nice thing to know that people that are of quality are applying to Greene County schools. COVID measures at the elementary continue to go well. Masking with the students and the staff is going well. Keeping people apart and so on. And the custodians are doing a great job of keeping things cleaned up in the building for us. And I think the best thing that happened to us was the warm weather. Kind of funny, last week when we got the nice weather, I came on and made the announcement that we'd be able to go back on the grass because it was finally dry enough and that coats would be optional. One of the first grade teachers came and told me that when their little first grader said, "I've been waiting all spring to hear that." So the warm weather is really helping our little people get, I think, ready to finish out the year strong. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Mrs. Sandberg.
Hi, everybody. I guess since the last time we met a few weeks ago, most of my work's been getting ready for ISASP, the Iowa Statewide Assessments for Student Progress. We're on board to do that this year, and the high school will be starting first the week of March 29th. So a big thanks go to Ruth Broman, Sean Zanders, and Scott Johnson for getting their schedules done and kids grouped and sent to me, and then Emily Gannon is irreplaceable and absolutely fabulous. And she and I have been working for a couple of days now, getting all of those paper schedules plunked into the actual system so that when the kids go to log in and take their tests, that'll go seamlessly. And Emily and I also have a plan then to assess any of our students who are currently learning remotely. We'll be assessing them at the rec center the week of April 5th. So they'll be coming in groups that we can socially distance and still be able to get state testing done with them. So otherwise, been doing a lot of work with special education. We've got a new system coming next year for teachers that will be the system that will house all of those individualized education plans that we write for kids that qualify for services. And so I've been getting some previews of that and getting ready to get our teachers trained on those things. Otherwise, in special ed 2, one thing that I've been doing with the AEA is we've been going through every student in our system and actually looking at their data for the entire year to gauge where were they before we left off from school for the spring break that never ended. And then where are they now? Have they regained or have come back to where they were and started making progress again? And if we have some kiddos that haven't done that, then we have some paths that we can take to try to get them some recovery services and make up for that loss due to the COVID break that we had. Otherwise, we're doing a lot of work with the instructional coaches right now, just getting ready for next year and actually trying to get some things ready before the end of the year when we have a few extra days with teachers, thanks to Mother Nature's little fits that she's thrown. But that's all I've got on my list.
Thank you. Mrs. Neal?
Yes, okay.
Your phone.
One of the 3 or 4 things that we've been working on in reading is looking at their curriculum alignment for our phonics program at the elementary for next year. In every PLC, we've been looking at their interventions, seeing how they're working, getting them prepared for our next state assessment and the Iowa assessment. And then we've been mailing out summer school letters, and I've been receiving phone calls and responses from that. We will also be mailing out a second summer school letter later on in May after we get the Iowa assessment results back in. So, and ask Mr. Zanders about the evil picture he posted of me about summer school and how kids feel about me.
Uncle
I
Sam.
must have missed it.
It was not evil. It was hilarious.
Oh, here's Uncle Sam. I want
Put
you
her
for
face
summer.
on.
Uncle Sam, I want you for summer school.
There will be revenge.
Share my screen if you'd like to see it.
I know.
Yes, please.
All right, thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Highnote?
Hi there. We've been working a lot on some number sense learning with teachers. Just what does it take to build number sense in kids? And the teachers have really been working hard on that and been really, really receptive to, just trying new things. And I love that about our staff. The other thing we've been working on is just getting ready for a new curriculum, K-8, next year with illustrative mathematics. So just what learning do we have to do to get ready for that? What questions do teachers have? Just things like that. You guys have any questions for me? Okay.
So since we've got just a minute or two, can you maybe just give an overview what number sense means?
Yeah. So building number sense really is 2 parts. What kids do to solve a problem, so their strategy, how they do it, and just their knowledge about numbers. Do they know what numbers look like? Do they know how to say them? Do they know how to write, a number? 125, do they know how to write that? Do they know what 125 is made up of? So both of those pieces together really give us an idea of a kid's number sense. So And in math, there's a lot of different ways to get the right answer. So having kids explore different strategies that help them best solve a problem helps them make sense of numbers. I don't know, that was a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Gordon has got a prior commitment, so is not able to be here, but I just want to highlight, we did host 2 sectional district basketball games, which to me was fantastic. The boys game was a buzzer beater, and the girls game actually was the eventual state champion, New Fonda. It was fun to see the people walking around the commons and the gym and everything like it was the first time in the city, kind of like, oh my gosh, this is, and all positive comments. So I want to really thank him for, again, volunteering, putting us out there, and obviously facility to have that. So
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I experienced the same thing at the play the other night. I mean, people that I talked to walking around, they were just like, wow, this place is really nice. And that was neat to see that reaction.
yeah, I think we got
It's just, I'm still looking forward to when we can pack that place.
I know, right? Yeah, no, yeah,
It's an incredible facility, I think.
Right.
Just
it's,
have that commons area full of people that are going in and out of the ball game or going in and out of the concert or
it
whatever.
was pretty packed the other night during the Saturday night play. I mean, there was a lot of people out in that commons area. It was pretty cool.
Mr. DeMons?
Just spring things going on with the grounds, is trying to get rid of the snow as fast as possible and hoping it stays away.
It is March.
Yes, never take your plow off. For sure.
I'll be quiet.
With the storm this fall, there's a lot of sticks and tree limbs that we're going to be contending with once the ground gets solid enough for us to get out on it. We'll be looking at a fertilizing bid tonight as well. Future down the road, we'll probably be looking at some bids on some larger lawn mowing equipment, and further down the road, possibly some equipment for snow removal. We're three different places as far apart as we are, and the time frame that it's taken to do all those jobs is increased greatly by the amount of land that we currently have. So,
Right. Sean, I got a question.
Yes.
We talked earlier about all the ground around the new high school. And is some of that going to be planned on going into some native type grass? And
A lot of it is.
Good.
I need to look at that, but
that would help with snow deposition as well, wouldn't it?
yeah, and I've reached out to Soil Tech is the people that they use to do a lot of the groundwork around there, and I've reached out to them and talked to them about maybe some sort of a living snow fence on the north side of the road, and then maybe something up there on the west hill where the eventually the greenhouse will go, something that'll catch that snow instead of having it all go.
You're really exposed out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other day, and the wind wasn't blowing terrible like it was today, but you go out there and you just watch those stop signs when you pull up,
they really
they're just fluttering out there just because there's nothing to break that coming across there. So
Yeah.
but that'll be something that we need to look at, and it'll look different 15 years from now than what it is today.
Right.
So
Yeah. The quickest thing would be native grasses that would put out there they stop a lot of snow,
yeah, and I think a lot of that has been planted to that. I think we'll need something a little, even if we had to tear up a small piece of it and put in 8 rows of corn and beans to catch some of that. So like they used to do back in the day. It's not worth anything, right, Steve?
Right. Yeah. No, it is actually.
thank you. Mr. Gersman?
Hello, board members and everybody. Sorry, I'm just going back and forth here with Mr. Phillips on streaming the football games.
Thank you.
We'll see if we can get something lined up. I actually have to record. I shouldn't say have to. We're going to record the middle school musical tomorrow. So that will be available for parents that can't make it. So more information on that through social media and email. That starts at 4. So it'll be 4 to 6, and I think dodgeball starts at 6:30. So we'll see if we can work something in. I might have Joseph, if he doesn't have anything going on tomorrow, help with that too. So yeah, that'd be a fun event to watch, I guess. So senior scholarships are coming in. I guess they're due. Most of them are due on the 12th. So a couple days here. So this is all electronic this year. So a lot of work has gone in on the background on that with Mr. Christensen and Ruth and Teresa. So thanks to them for their help. So we're planning to have those hopefully available to the appropriate committee members early next week, or I guess soon, I guess I should say. But it's all been pretty smooth so far. So kind of excited to get that transition to an electronic format. We also have spring break coming up. That's next week. And we'll be installing some clever displays in the high school. Teresa Green got a grant. So we're getting 4 more of those set up throughout the high school with various signage for job opportunities and things like that for the students to see. Kind of neat, especially with grant money. Can't beat that. And so I'll be working with Adam on getting those up next week. And then I'm also working with Adam on putting the strobe, which is a flashing light outside the middle school for the speed zones. So that'll be up very soon as well, as long as it's not 70-mile-an-hour winds and we get blown over when we're on the JCB. So, but yeah, that's what's coming up for us.
Questions anybody have?
I'm confused, the strobe for the speed zone.
Out here, we've had it for about 10 years,
Yeah.
and it was an old thing that you had to stand on a ladder with a laptop computer and program it there.
So we're in charge of that?
Yeah.
That's not the state?
No,
Really?
that's us.
Okay.
But we upgraded those, so now we can do it wirelessly, and they
Okay.
just need to install them. So it'll be a lot better deal.
Becky wants this on the computer.
I see them.
Time is it?
6.
Probably discuss change orders, couldn't they? Or
Yeah, as long as the app's on them.
you want to discuss change orders? So then, sure, when it comes time for the meeting, then
Got questions about them? I mean, you saw them. The biggest one in there is there's a big door hardware one. When we got it all finally done, there was quite a few doors that just didn't work the way we wanted them to. And the biggest would be the 4 opening doors into the auditorium for the public, and then the 4 doors for the public into the gym. We put some hold opens on them so that they can just stand open, and then you just press the button and they'll go close. But since those are firewalls, they had to be tied to the fire alarm system, so that added up quite a bit of the money. But otherwise, we had the door that goes between the Career Academy and Area E, the Commons, was only locked from one side, and we needed it to be locked from both sides so that you couldn't, when it's locked, that you can't go either way. It's not an egress out of the Career Academy, so it wasn't going to hurt that. But the way it was set up in the original was it was locked from the Career Academy side, so when they had night class, those folks couldn't get back into the rest of the building. But when we're having a public event, those folks can get into the Career Academy. So we didn't want that. So that fixed that problem. And then the rest of them were just a lot of little cleanup things that we had. But that should be it for change orders. And we're going to be still under budget like what I did. So
one thing I noticed, Sam, was
not painting a ceiling in the custodial room.
And then it adds on $1,544.
Well, they missed the negative. That was a deduct.
Yeah, okay, that's what I assumed. It should have been, I mean, yeah, but it doesn't show that here.
Yeah, that room, they called it the custodial office, and then they put about every pipe in the world in there. I don't know how you were gonna ever make it an office, but.
So that would change the amount of this change order, the total amount then, correct? It's the second to the last.
Let's get your calculator out.
I'd have to run the calculation. Yeah. Since it says delete, it's a deduct, but I'd have to run.
They should put parentheses around it, you think?
Yeah, I think so. He just didn't put it in right, but when I ran his numbers, it ran right, but I'd have to add these again. But that $28,000 one was the big one.
And where's that at?
It's the next change order. It's its own change order.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, I see it. That's the door.
There's a 15,000 one for some cabinets and countertops.
Where'd those go?
Teresa Green's room did not have any storage in it that needed to have storage in it.
And then they didn't specify countertops for the sound equipment to sit on or for the lighting equipment to sit on. I guess they thought we'd have a table and we'd rather have counters.
In the auditorium?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So we put counters in there. And it includes that actually the countertop that's out here for folks to use in Tim's office when they fill out forms and stuff. That was in there.
What's lighting at restrooms? That's pretty good size.
When those two public restrooms, when we got them opened, they were really dark. I mean, they only had lights up the middle, so you got stalls going both ways. There was nothing over the stalls. The stalls were dark, yeah, and so we're like the rest of the building is super light. We want that, so we ran some cans in there to do that. We used ones that they wouldn't have to cut the ceiling apart to do, so they don't match the fixture exactly. But I think they look pretty nice, and the light is way better. It was one of those we wouldn't have known. The hand dryer wall protection, we discovered, only took a couple months maybe. And especially the ones the kids use every day, the hand dryer was blowing the water onto the concrete block, and it was rotting the paint because it's a latex-based paint. So we put them everywhere under every hand dryer because we don't have any. Everything has hand dryers. We don't have any paper towel for a cleanup thing. The marker boards, there was marker boards that were missing in the ag room. She didn't have any. And I think that probably happened when we did all that changing right at the very end to switch it to a classroom in the lab, the way we kind of changed all that at the very end. When Iowa Central changed what they wanted to do in there. That just slipped through the cracks probably.
Wasn't there some concerns with paint early on? Did all that get straightened out in the new building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The add outlets to the art room, that little half wall between the graphic arts part and the 2-3D where her pottery wheels sit, there was one outlet. So we had to cut that wall open and put a bunch of outlets for the pottery wheels. It's one of the ones that we're planning on. We have a list that we're sending to OPM that we're not too happy about. That's on there. So. The service lane wall pack is the service lane is the space between the Career Academy and the auditorium where they get, you back up, get the dumpster, they deliver the food and everything. It's really dark in it. And it's before we put this light, it doesn't have much light back there. So we added a light up on the auditorium that shines that area and lights it up really well. I think it's better in there.
It doesn't work. It's on.
It's on. It's better. And it hooks. We put it on the auditorium side so we could hook it to those ones that go around the top of the auditorium so it comes on at the same time as them and we didn't have to run any other kind of timer or anything on it. So that worked out pretty good. The bleacher media area, is most of that cost was adding outlets and internet up to where they do the media up at the top of the stands up there. Those little tables that are up there actually came with the bleachers to be the scoring tables, and we didn't need them for that because we had those portable ones. So we moved them up there and incorporated them, and they work great for that. So that's just wiring essentially. I think that's most of the really expensive ones.
So how many of these do you refer on to OPN and say, we think maybe these things should have been included in the original design?
I think it was about 275,000.
I would say that there was a list of maybe 15 and 15 that Sam got it broken down into. These 15 were totally missed. I mean, the things that should have been spec'd to begin with, but weren't spec'd. And then another 15 that were coordination between engineer A and engineer B resulted in a lack of coordination.
So some of the sub-engineers might have missed things. Yeah.
Yeah, or they coordinate with,
go through.
We had ductwork running through beams. And
what is a normal resolution for a situation like that? Maybe John, having worked in that business. I mean,
We're at it.
we're there.
We're there.
But I mean,
Talk about mistakes and they're
there,
not paid yet.
is there usually, the final payment isn't made, so you negotiate how that's going to come out of the final payment, if it's going to come out of the final payment. Or,
And the initial discussions have been
pretty good.
Been good.
Is that pretty normal though?
Our change order rate on this job was super low. Yeah, I mean super low.
You take how many pages did our blueprint have?
What's that?
How many pages were in the blueprint?
About 700 and something.
Yeah. No, I get it. There's a lot of
mistakes on a stack.
A lot of stuff to plan
It was
for.
two rolls as big,
It's
I was real pleased with $34 million that were.
I think in the end, if we walk away and they don't pay any of them, we're
1.8% is what I
Is that what it ended up at?
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
change orders I've got is 653,000, and we had a $933,000 contingency.
Yeah.
So,
So we're still 300 under that contingency. That's pretty
We did
good.
real well.
We did. It went great. They did a great job really with the design.
Yeah.
Most of the trouble with the coordination actually was between the people in New York that designed all that stuff in the top and the other engineers. There was a lot of conflicts with all that rigging. There was piping in the way and sprinklers in the way, and so that was the most expensive part of all that. But then there was some where they just ran the duct wrong, and they didn't realize there was a beam there probably. But they needed to look at that. But pretty minor league stuff, really.
And we essentially have no option but to pay the change orders up front. Work had to be done.
Right. Yeah.
So
when you look at, from Henkel's point of view, they have it like the plan says. We have to pay them to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go back to the architect and say, we don't think we should have to pay this, and then we'll negotiate with them.
Mm-hmm.
But
how much do we owe them still? Approximately.
I'm not sure I'll tell him.
Which ones? OPM?
OPM.
I think we're at 90%.
that's about right.
Yeah.
And the total was 1.3 or something, was it, if I remember right? Something like that.
I have too many numbers that I do every day. I'm sorry. I would have to.
I've got in my head like 9%.
Yeah, I was thinking it was 8 or 9% of the whole thing.
Yeah, you're talking 35 million, 9% of that. My math is.
Well, that'd be almost 3 million then.
Yeah, I was thinking it was closer to 3
Yeah,
million.
yeah.
I was 2.2 or something.
Yeah,
Stick in my
it
head.
was over 2. And then when we did this, that added some. So
Figures in my head too.
out here, I think there'll be that one change order will go through that's still not out. There's a big one out there, but it's to change these last 2 units out.
And we kind of talked about that briefly. It'll be a change order essentially, but we're going to get those federal funds
Yeah.
that we'll be able to update a couple units that again, we were gonna wait and do, but
That was the air handler.
yes, there's a couple air handlers that,
Yeah.
again, we've got funding available to do it now, so it just makes sense to.
And we're taking advantage of we already have a contractual relationship, so we don't have to put it out to bid and all of it. We don't have to pay a design fee and all that stuff. So it makes it so we can get it quicker and probably less cost in the end. So, and we actually, the mechanical engineer he has engineers on his own staff that are actually doing the engineering. So we're bypassing the architect on that part. So they won't have a fee.
You guys had an interesting strategy at one of these early meetings. Don't really talk to OPM about what our concerns are until the end, because they'll just make it up on the design of the middle school.
Yeah, we really were afraid of that a little. So, because we could see that we could see our stuff out there was going to be not great.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't need to pick this fight yet. Let's get the middle school done, because it's the potential. Whenever you start tearing into a building, that's your potential for change orders.
Mm-hmm.
So this building ended up not costing.
Pick the fight early. It's pretty easy to make dollar signs real high.
Big time.
And then when you argue the fact, it's.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think our strategy worked pretty good. And they've been great. I mean, we had a good initial conference with them about our concerns. And they pretty much, they're really hanging on their hat on the stuff that if it wasn't there, we still hadn't paid for it. So that's why I made the two lists.
Right.
They're right. We didn't pay for these things, but we probably would have paid less if they were in the bid than we did after they were cheap.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So that'll be there are about 140, I think, on that list, 1,000. But yeah, we would have paid for a bunch of that if it was in the bid.
And what you think of $140,000 out of a $2 million contract? That's not very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like throwing $1 at 100.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they did a great job, really.
Yeah. No.
And that building is fantastic.
Yeah.
And this building is great.
I'm really amazed at this building.
This building
Changes
is
here. Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
That gym turned out wonderful.
Yeah.
That is a
It
great
really
gym.
did. It really did.
Middle school gym like that, that's a great gym.
Yeah.
I don't know what we'd have done if it had been in the middle school for sure.
Oh,
The 3-story.
yeah. That wouldn't have been those tight rooms.
This building's so spread out, just.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That would.
Yeah, that would have been tough.
This is off subject. When is the demolition on the gymnasium supposed to start?
A couple weeks, they're still working on that.
Okay.
First step would be doing electrical work because the middle school is
The main service comes over.
service for the middle school or the middle school gym, which then is the service for the early learning center.
Yeah, it's backwards of the heat all comes from that building, but the electrical all goes that way north.
Does the heat for the administrative building come out of the middle school?
No,
It's got its own boiler,
Yeah, okay.
but the electrical service is
Yeah,
from.
just the electrical. Okay, I thought you said heat.
And the electrical service for that building also is on the gym. It comes under the parking lot over to the admin building.
Is that going to be a big expense to do that then?
It's part of the demo.
It was
That's part of the demo bid? Okay.
Yeah. That all comes in right there on the southwest corner of the old gym,
Hmm.
and then feeds north and south.
I think overall, we're really very happy both with OPN and Hinkle. And Hinkle, I think, really did a nice job for us.
They really did.
And Steve, the project manager, is very complimentary of what we got for the dollar.
Yes.
He says, compared to other school projects, you got a great project for what you paid for it.
Yeah.
He also commented to me, I think I mentioned this once, that he really appreciated working with you and everybody else involved. He said they were really great people to work with. So that was
They were too.
good to hear.
It goes both ways, and we tried to make it right off the bat. We wanted a good relationship. I didn't want to be the butthole. I wanted to be.
It's not fun to go to work when you got to do that.
Yeah, I wanted them to understand I'm there to watch for our interests, but you still got to try and build it the way. I'm not going to fight with you. I want to work with you. If I catch stuff, we can stop it before it gets out of hand. So, and I very rarely had to correct them. Most of the time, they were doing it the way they were supposed to. So
Good.
Close to time,
6:16.
Yeah, well, thanks, Sam.
Yeah, you're
That's
welcome.
when we start.
What's that?
Yeah, 6:15 or 6:30? 6:15?
6:30. So that with 6:15, this
Oh,
work session's over.
okay. So meeting's adjourned.
Okay.
A 15-minute break and we'll Time to get started. Call meeting to order. Vision, mission statement to be read before we start. Promoting lifelong learners through real-world experiences. Roll call, establishment report.
Denhart is absent. Fisher.
Here.
McConnell.
Here.
Wilson. Here. Carver.
Here. I have approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Was there a late ad that for being out? My wife saw something on an agenda that I didn't see.
We did remove something.
We removed something from the agenda.
What's that?
We removed something from the
So
agenda.
we removed it. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Leave of absence request.
Okay. Yeah, leave of absence request. That was what it was. Yeah, thank you.
Does that need to be?
So it's not on.
You take that
No,
out.
you
Yeah,
can
stick it
change
on.
your agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Up to 24 hours ahead of time, you can change.
Okay. Open forum.
I need
I
to
think,
call
yes.
the roll first.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Fisher.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
No,
Aye.
Well, you're not calling the roll. You're.
we did
Move
roll.
to
Yeah, we did that.
Approval agenda.
We're
We're approving
approving
the
the
agenda.
agenda.
Aye. Aye.
Very good. Wilson.
Aye.
And I-
McConnell.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye.
We'll get back with it.
Yeah. It don't matter.
Open forum. This provides an opportunity for anybody who wants to speak. It's not on the agenda. Certainly, there's maybe a little misunderstanding and somebody that communicated to me. Anybody can comment through our meeting if they're recognized by the chair.
Yep.
And do so in an orderly fashion. And it's not just open forum. So we can have additional people comment anytime through meeting, or they can ask to be recognized. So I just wanted to clarify that one. Do we have anybody, Brent, that wants to speak?
Nobody through the chat.
Okay.
I have one good thing, and hopefully there's public versus just our staff listening. Sure, we all got the same letter in the mail about 2.5 weeks ago. Not a fan, you can't put your name on it. If you're not man or woman enough to own up to who's writing the letter, return address, anything, don't send it to me because I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, it's pretty worthless if they're not willing to sign it.
We don't get paid for it. You want me to be a traffic cop, pay me and I'll go do it.
It's just hard to address any issues if you don't know who to address them to. And I think that's how I look at it too. If I don't know that you wrote it, I can't even talk to you about the problems that you've seen.
Exactly.
So yeah, I agree.
Okay. Consent items. I'm going to do these all together. Minutes, bills, financial reports, hirings, and resignations. As we talked earlier here, the resignations and hirings up on the board. Sounds like
Some good hires, it looks like.
hires and some local connections, and hopefully we'll keep those people here.
And they have lots of babies. To increase our enrollment.
Did we ever hire a 7th grade science teacher? Was that,
It's 8th grade. This year, no, we have not.
so we still need to fill that?
And it's on here.
So it was an 8th grade science, not
Emily Schindel.
Okay. So it was an 8th grade
8th grade
science that we didn't
science,
have, we
excuse me.
hired one. Okay,
Yes,
good.
yeah.
Very good. So you just need to move the,
Approved it.
I move that we approve the consent items.
Second.
Moved by Wilson, second by Fisher to approve the consent items. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Okay, old business, 2021-22 school calendar. This is now public hearing for the school calendar that's required before we approve it.
Again, as I mentioned last meeting, I developed a couple calendars. One was kind of going back to what we'd done a few years ago that had every Wednesday early dismissal. This one is kind of the concept that we had last year of having all day professional developments. This kind of has one Monday a month, and then a couple around the holidays. And I had staff vote on it. I think it was like 62 or 63% were in favor of this calendar. I know a lot of discussion that we've had prior to this, everybody's, we added early dismissals this year because of remote learners. If you followed anything with the state right now, I don't think remote learning is going to be necessarily an option next year. They're pretty coming down hard on wanting kids in school, and with everything going on, I don't think that's going to be, like I said, an option. So nothing that really worried about in terms of having an early dismissal every week.
Do you know why teachers didn't vote for this one? But 60, you said 64%?
We had two options. She had two options.
I know, but 64% seems
Low.
It wasn't a unanimous vote on this one. Was there,
1/3, yeah.
was there something they didn't like about it?
Some people do like the early dismissal once a week.
Okay.
I think that's the other thing. There's some people like the all day. Some people don't like all day. You may address, I don't know what camp you're in.
I want to have kids in their seats as much as possible, so I like this one better. The best thing we ever did, and I'm not sure whose idea it was, but those data days are fantastic, and to have those once a month, I think they're right, laser focused right to the point of the different kids, and I think this will work out well.
The comment that I used to hear from my wife and others was that when you had it every Wednesday, it was hard to get a meeting, because by the time you get the meeting started and get into the groove, and you only got had maybe an hour and a half to actually discuss, and then you had to quit, and like you said, Darren, I think you can get more in depth in the day long things. Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody else has other comments on that.
Make sure Brett doesn't see anybody. Make sure Brett doesn't have anybody asking questions or commenting.
Brent, any comments on the school calendar from you?
No, we have 19 concurrent viewers and no comments at this point.
Okay.
I'll close the public hearing.
We will close the public hearing, and I would ask for a motion for approval of the calendar as presented.
I'll move we approve the 2021 to 2022 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Moved by Fisher, second by Wilson, to approve the 2021-22 school calendar. Please call it roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Okay, move on to something easy and quick. COVID mitigation efforts.
For the most part, again, I believe it's going well. Numbers continue to be very low. To be honest, I've done a poor job recently remembering the nurses contact me if there's a case, but I used to be Johnny on the spot and text them any positive cases, which sometimes I forget about that. And
When was the last case we had? In the
Well, I
school?
talked to Becky Wolf earlier today. She said we've had a little bump in our positivity rate from the low of 1.5 or whatever it was.
I'm talking about cases in the school.
I'm
Yeah.
getting there.
Okay.
To 3.8%. And she did say that there was a student who's planning on going on the Spanish trip who tested positive. I don't have any other information beyond that.
I haven't heard that yet.
It's my understanding we have one kid out of school, a middle schooler, and possibly just quarantine, but otherwise we have no cases in the schools.
It's been about
the news I got.
It's been a couple weeks ago that we had a staff member and a couple kids that had it. But again, I think for the most part, going well. I know that people aren't excited about wearing masks. I understand that, but I think for the most part, people have been relatively compliant and doing the best they can for that.
I still think that we should look at the mask matrix. If we're at, what was the percentage you said, Dr. Carver, in the county?
3.8, I believe.
I think on Monday, she said a bump, so this will make sense. Monday, we were 1.7%. I just don't think that our kids need to be wearing them when they're by themselves. I would really like to see us go back to yellow.
I looked at the rate today just before the meeting, and it said 2.8% on the COVID Iowa website.
For Greene County or for the state?
Greene County, yeah. The state
Okay.
was 4.1. Yeah. But
I was talking to Becky on the phone. I wouldn't swear 3 versus 2.8, but it was up slightly from that low.
I hate to interject, and I'm not trying to put her on the spot, but I believe Becky Wolf is in the meeting right now as well. I'm not sure if she's around, but she did join the meeting.
You want to clarify that, Becky, what the positivity rate is? She's there, she's not speaking. Okay.
I just know that at the beginning of the year, we approved a matrix that right now we should be agreeing that the teachers came up with themselves. We had 30 teachers, was it, staff?
I kind of led it, but yes, we had 30 staff members that
Come up
were
with that, and I just
return to learn plan.
I don't see.
Not saying anything good or bad, just going facts, when we were on that, the concern that people had was the back and forth.
Sure, and I completely understand, and I'm not even asking us to go back to the matrix, but if we go by what we had talked about and what we approved, we should be on green. I'm proposing that we go back to yellow so that when kids can socially distance, they can have their mask off. I don't think, Mike has said before that he thinks that then teachers have to patrol more. I think they're patrolling right now. I think that it's an issue having to patrol and make sure kids are wearing it all the time. If kids could take it off when they're sitting on the learning staircase and take a breath, they might be more likely to leave them on their face like they're supposed to in class. I just would like to see us go back to yellow.
I've had many families express they would like to see us at least start to move towards a less restrictive situation. There's a lot of concerns about kids and their social and emotional welfare. And I've had parents and teachers express concern over that. The CDC says that in the past year, between 13 and 18-year-olds, there's 119% higher incidence of overdoses. There's 94% more anxiety and 84% more depression amongst kids from 13 to 18 years old. And I'm not saying it's all a mass thing. I think it's just the total situation that we put them through. But I know families, there's a lot of families that want this. There's a lot of kids that want this. And there's a lot of teachers that want this. I was in the high school today and I was met by a teacher this particular teacher was in tears over the fact that this teacher was having problems with some issues that she's got. And she said, this mask makes it so much worse. So, and I'm not saying we need to do away with masks, but I think we need to start easing restrictions and start thinking about that. And I know there's people that feel very strongly on both sides of this issue, and our job is to assess everyone's view and then come to a compromise somehow. But I think it's something we need to talk about.
Mr. Jackson, if you want to.
Karen? I just had a question. Can you remind me again what green and yellow meant exactly?
So yellow, if they could socially distance.
Yeah, green at the time was if we had no cases, didn't have to wear a mask. If we had one case, it went to yellow, which meant that you need to wear a mask if you couldn't socially distance.
Which meant 6 feet or something.
Yeah, and then red was no matter what. We had multiple cases.
Everywhere.
And I understand the concern was that kids were getting mixed messages or they were taking the messages mixed. They weren't getting a mixed message, but kids want to push the boundaries. I get that.
Well, it was going back and forth too, that Monday was green, Tuesday was yellow, Wednesday
And one
was
school would
red.
be green and one school would be red, and that was,
Since the state took off the mask requirement 4 or 5 weeks ago, cases are down 71% in the state of Iowa. And, things are really headed in a whole different trajectory than when we decided to do the mask mandate. So what was that?
We have 2 people with their hands raised online. I hate to interject as well, but just so you're aware.
Okay, I'm done.
Jill Waniger.
Jill, would you like to speak first?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the quarantine. The protocol hasn't changed, so that if we go back to green, we have to quarantine a lot more kids, and that just means they're not in school.
Jill, I'm not asking for green. I'm asking for yellow. I think Steve is feeling the same way. We're asking just for a reprieve for the kids to be able to take a break. And I understand that could possibly make kids have to quarantine, but I think kids also need some hope because they don't want to be stuck in these masks the rest of their lives. And right now, I know I've got 2 kids that don't want to go to school on Mondays because they're tired of this. They get all weekend to not have to wear it, and then they got to go back to this. So I'm begging for our kids. Dr. Carver, you and I both have a heart for mental health, and we know the problems that kids go through. And I know it was necessary. I understand that. But at some point, we got to think about what's going to happen in the future to our kids with their mental health, with their physical health. We don't know some kids go to school at 7:00 in the morning, and then they go to Fairway and they work until 8:00 at night. They're in their masks way longer than any of us are, way longer. And I'm begging for our kids just to give them some ray of hope to be able to take this off when they're by themselves. I guess that's the mom in me, is seeing the importance of that. Somebody else had their hand raised.
Somebody else have their hand raised?
Mr. Tulane does. Mr. Tulane does.
Mr. Tulane, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. And I just wanted to talk from a coaching perspective, and maybe we just get some clarification on what people are thinking about when masks would be taken off. But I can tell you that in my classroom, during this trimester in particular, we have very high numbers of kids. And I just want to get some clarification on that part. And I will echo what Jill said with the quarantine. We've talked as a coaching staff about losing our spring seasons, myself as a golf coach and track coaches and soccer coaches. That's something that we're very concerned about, having kids in a classroom where maybe their person sitting next to them isn't masked up and they're masked up, and then having to have our athletes go into quarantine. Not saying that you're not on the right track, Catherine or Steve or anything like that, but just something to consider that is a real concern amongst the coaching staff. And maybe we can get some clarification of your thoughts on that.
Heath, I was in today and talked to Tim about that concern, and that is a very valid concern. I agree with that. I think in speaking with Mr. Christensen today, we talked about if we were going to do something like this, maybe not starting for several weeks, maybe after everybody returns from Easter break. Wasn't that what we talked about?
Well, we've got spring break next week, and we've got people going here, there, and everywhere that,
Yeah.
To me, you talk about 14 days, so I would hesitate to do anything until we come back.
And the teachers are getting, the ones that are getting their second shot is this Friday, correct?
Staff members, second vaccination.
So that would give them over 2 weeks for that second dose to manifest in their systems, and they should be protected then, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then with Mr. Tulane, what he said is technically if they're sitting close to each other, they should have their masks on. I mean, that's what I'm asking for is that just when you're not around anybody, so they shouldn't have to quarantine because they both should have their mask on, right?
Correct.
We went back to yellow.
The struggle, again, I think we talk about different buildings too. To me, it would be a challenge at the elementary building too.
Sure.
To spread anybody out, because that's when we were quarantining at the elementary. It's one of those, you got 20 kids in the classroom that you may be able to spread them out, but over the course of the day, you don't know who's been in contact with who. So they ended up quarantining the entire classroom. When they were doing that, there was again a challenge.
Another component of this decision, I believe, and in speaking to Mr. Christensen, is that teachers should have complete control in their own rooms. And that should be well known to begin with. If you're in a teacher's classroom, and for instance, Mr. Tulane, if you do have a classroom that's highly populated, you would have the option to insist that your kids wear masks, and they're going to have to do it. I think that's important to be part of this plan. Yeah.
I know that when we were on yellow, there were opportunities though, that maybe you were working on something in class. And so if you knew a kid would be responsible enough to go out to the learning staircase, they would be able to go out there. Or even if there's students in the middle school, if they're responsible enough to go out into the hallway to work on a project, they could take their mask on. There's got to be, obviously some responsibility towards that. So I'm not asking, I hope to God someday we're going to go back and not have to wear masks. I hope so. I would like the kids to have some sort of hope and know that they could have a break during the day. I don't think that's too much to ask. We all get a break during the day when we're by ourselves. So I guess that's what I'm asking for. I don't think it's too much to ask.
And to build on that, I think that's an important component of this too, is that kids see that there's some hope at the end, some light at the end of the tunnel. The weather's going to be getting nice and they're going to be doing stuff outside everywhere else with everybody else. And I think they feel kind of imprisoned almost when they come into the school and we've got this absolute strict mandate that, a lot of people don't agree with. So I'm willing to compromise. And I understand there's two sides to this issue and I completely respect everybody's view on this, but this is just my view. So
just the other factual point, the county's mandate goes through the month of March.
It's over.
Just to let people know. And I don't know that they officially said that they're not going to re-up and just let it run out, I think is what they're talking about.
So you said that we have a Easter break.
Yeah, we have, again, if you look at the county's runs out on the 31st of March. April 1st is a Thursday, April 1st and 2nd is a Thursday, Friday. Then we got Easter weekend. We do not have school on Monday. We've got a data day.
Okay.
So
it'd be the 6th.
To me, the 6th would be the soonest that I could support it.
And that's 2 weeks after spring break. So that would be, if somebody went somewhere, they would have that time to show any symptoms or anything like that.
that's that's a month from now, basically. A month from
Becky
now.
Wolf raised her hand.
Becky? Are you there, Becky?
I think Becky's still having microphone problems. Does somebody have her phone number? Maybe we can call her on the phone.
That's what we did last time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Patty Fisher had her hand up as well. I don't know if Patty still wants to speak or not. I apologize, Patty.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right. What I was going to say is, for the most part, a lot of our classrooms are full, like what Mr. Tulane said. And so, yeah, nothing's going to change in those classrooms because, if you're in yellow, you're wearing a mask unless you can socially distance. But I do have a couple small classes where maybe not even all the kids can socially distance, but a few of them could pull off to the side because they're small enough, or I could teach without a mask. But if they're not socially distanced, they'd have to keep it on. I would never, as a teacher, want to be responsible for somebody losing part of their soccer or their track or their golf season. So I would feel bad if when the nurse came to me because somebody had been, quarantined and to see if there's contact, I say, oh yeah, these two have been sitting there with no mask on. So I would never do that. Plus, we've had some students that have just come back to school, and I would do everything in my ability to make sure that they never feel compromised so that they don't have to go back online.
Okay. I'm going to put you on speakerphone because I don't think yours is working. Is that okay?
Thank you, Patty.
Okay. Go ahead, Becky.
Okay, so I want to hear feedback from my question. Our county positivity rate as of this morning was 3.9%, and it has been slowly creeping up. Because we were at like 1.5, 1.6. We have started to do some vaccination of our population, but we're only at 10%. As far as people being fully vaccinated, that also is only at 10%. And our other concern is that you mentioned spring break is coming up. And yes, we have to look at 2 weeks out from return. But the other recommendations that the CDC has is if somebody travels, especially if they're traveling out of state or out of the United States, they need to self-quarantine either 7 or 10 days after returning. Now it gets shorter if they have a test after at least day 5. But our concern is that we're going to start seeing an increase in cases. Our recommendation is to continue your mitigation practices, including the masking, through the end of the year, which differs a little bit from what you're talking about. But I want to just point out that it's too soon to move backwards. I pick up a lot of complacency with people now and not really wanting to do this anymore. And I know it's been a long time. It's been a long time for healthcare workers too. And I feel like we all have our own responsibility to do whatever we can to help healthcare workers to get through this by decreasing cases and exposure.
Becky, I have a question. This is Steve Fisher.
Yep.
Did I hear that at the medical center, less than half of the people out there received the vaccine?
Originally, and I believe it's right around a little bit over 51%. There were some employees, like there are everywhere, they didn't want to take it originally. I think they wanted to kind of sit back and see, how everybody else did, and then they decided to go forward and get vaccinated.
So it's currently over? You said right at 51% currently?
It's somewhere over 50%.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. And your school teachers and staff, you've had a great report. We'll be finishing up this Friday with school staff.
Do you know what the percentage of?
About 67% of staff.
2/3.
Yeah,
2/3.
Okay.
And if there's others that want to have it later, if they change their mind, all they have to do is give us a call and we'll take care of that.
Well, again, we're not talking about doing away with masks. And I think that's important for people to know. We're talking about following CDC guidelines, and we're talking about, the fact that there's a lot of people that want to start feeling some relief from these things.
Other comments, Becky?
Quite honestly, I want to have relief from it too, but I also know I have to keep my keep doing what they're doing until we can get to the point where we have, probably 70-80% of the population vaccinated, fully vaccinated.
Hey, Tim, this is Sean. I have a question.
Thank you, Becky.
Hey, Sean.
Did Becky say, what did she say about someone leaving the state has to be quarantined, or is that just if you haven't been vaccinated?
That's just a CDC
recommendation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
After travel. Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
Out of state, not the United States.
You have to have a negative test 1 to 3 days before to return to the United States. If you've had COVID recently, then you have to have documentation of recovery from illness. If you can't pass that test for either of those criteria, you'll be held, you won't be able to work. And that's not a recommendation, that is a requirement.
Correct. Hey, Becky, this is John. I have a flu question. How many flu cases have we had in 2021 so far?
We have had minimal amounts of flu. The reason is because of the national, will not have a lot of
didn't get most of that.
Yeah.
Did you say
She
it's
said minimal. She didn't give you a number. She said we've had minimal amounts of that.
No, but
I can't tell you an exact number.
well, the Iowa Department of Health Friday said we've had about less than 1% flu. So is it coincidental that our flu disappeared because everything has COVID? Where's the difference? I mean, the flu just doesn't go away.
The flu influenza doesn't go away. We're more direct protection. We're washing our hands more. We're masking. We're staying away from crowds. All of those things are good actions. What's that benefit for April?
any other questions for Becky, or Becky, any other comments?
It's called motivational reasoning. So if you're motivated to believe something.
Thank you, Becky.
If we have no influenza, we're gonna believe that masking made a difference.
Right.
Or maybe it's just one of those rare years where it wasn't as infectious.
So,
Same thing with COVID. The fact that it's going down seems like it's because of masking, but maybe it's some other factor that we can't identify at this point in time. I think the big thing is, like we talked about, is just if we can document social distancing, masking when it's not present, so that we don't have to have kids quarantined, because it's not just athletics that we're talking about. We're talking about, large group contests for all the music people, prom, getting
Kids in classes.
kids to prom, as well as getting your classes done and graduating from high school. So.
And I think that's going to be up to the staff to make sure that happens. And I think the staff's perfectly capable of making sure those things happen. I would guess that there's going to be very seldom that kids will be able to take masks off unless they're, somewhere by themselves. But
there's already, when they're eating lunch, kids are getting quarantined. They were getting quarantined. We have such low numbers that it's not happening now. But when they're eating lunch, kids were getting quarantined in the middle school.
4 at a time.
It's still gonna happen. They spend time together on the weekends, and trust me, they don't wear masks, and they drink each other's Mountain Dews, and they eat out of taco bags together. They're not doing it on the weekends. I'm just asking, we represent, as board members, we represent the community, and we need to somewhat listen to our parents and our kids, and that's who we represent. So I'm just gonna make a motion that on April 6th, we go back to yellow and we freeze on yellow until we decide otherwise.
with the understanding, I think I would add to that motion that teachers have absolute authority within their spheres of wherever they're controlling, that they make the call, and kids need to be mindful of that and respect that. I'll second that.
Okay. I can live with that.
I think they're responsible enough to
You
do it.
understand where my perspective is.
I understand, and I respect
I have
it,
2
Steve.
children who are healthcare professionals. I'm concerned about them. I'm concerned about their mental health. I'm concerned about the mental health of healthcare providers. I think the big thing of getting our kids back in school has helped a lot of that. Some of these, many of the things you talked about were because we're isolating the kids at home and not letting them get around.
I would disagree with that. I would disagree. I have the kids, so I can tell you from a fact that my kids are not the same kids that they were last year.
Well,
A lot of it.
I don't know that anybody.
No, I agree. It's all been
Because
hard
we
for
took them out of
everybody.
school in March last year and they didn't get.
It's been hard on everybody. Trust me, I understand that completely. But these are our kids. This is how we show what's important to us. They're our next generation. I'm sorry. I'm ranting.
Okay. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Harmer.
Aye. Okay, thanks for quick and easy. We've done the next section.
All things relative.
Reports and correspondence. New business, change orders. We reviewed those with Sam earlier during our work session. Do I hear a motion to approve the change orders?
I move that we approve the change orders.
And we go for the Career Academy and middle school.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the change orders. Please call the roll.
McConnell,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Fertilizer bids.
Once again, this winter, we took bids, got bids in from two different companies. It's higher than what it has been in the past, but we are now a larger entity than we've been in the past as well. Both bids came in amazingly within the same realm. My recommendation would be we would go with the local company. There was a few extra things on the bid as well, not only just being a Greene County school taxpayer. There were some benefits to some irrigation things that they were willing to help us with, and so my recommendation would be to go with our local group.
Does this fertilizer bid include all that outlying area around the new buildings and stuff around the new school?
It's just the mowable
Okay,
grass,
the mobiles, okay.
which is up around somewhere around 45 acres.
How much did we add from last year?
Just shy of, I know, right at 10, the way I've got it. The way the blueprint reads is it's right at 10 at the new high school. So, and something we possibly can look at in the future is, some of the facilities out here west of where, or east of where we're at here, there's approximately 9 acres that we don't mow anymore. It's mowed twice a year by a local that uses it for grass hay for livestock.
Maybe they ought to be fertilizing that if they're getting the hay off it.
Well, and it's relatively, he mowed it once last year with the weather we had. I don't.
Yeah.
Is
he buying the hay?
No, it's just
I'd let him fertilize it then.
The only risk is that you deplete your ground and then you're catching up later on. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just creating a problem.
Yeah.
You gotta fertilize.
Well, make that a requirement of him getting the hay. Make sure he shows that it's been
Is that a
fertilized.
cost difference, Tim? Or what's our cost difference?
from last year to this year, or it's about $7,000 to $8,000 difference.
To pick up 10 acres more.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
I move we approve the 21 spring and fall fertilizer bids
For
Raccoon Valley Lawn Care.
Second.
Moved by Fisher, seconded by McConnell to approve Raccoon Valley Lawn Care estimate for spring fertilizer 2021 at $29,964. Please call the roll.
Wilson,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Greenhouse.
The FFA and ag students were here a couple months ago, requesting the purchase of greenhouse. We're at that point. Again, the original plan was to move the existing greenhouse, but we're looking at building a new one, and having the construction class take care of the construction portion.
Did they go with the bigger one, didn't they?
No, it's the small one.
Was it still a small one?
Yeah,
And this is going out at the new high school.
correct. Yeah, on the west side there.
24 by 36, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And weren't they looking at some alternative financing for this and other ways of paying for this?
I think they're still looking at that. We do have, again, we've got some RPP funds that she received for getting curriculum and everything okay, that will be part of that. But yeah, I think they're looking at some other funding as well, which they're trying to get some grants and different things.
So do we know what the final bill is going to be that we would pay, or, I mean, we just need to approve this?
Just need to approve. This is 46, like I said, the one it's not a grant, but one funding I know is $9,000 that will go towards this.
Well, I know they talked about trying to reach out to some other partners for additional donations.
What about the money that the FFA makes? Any of that? I was looking at the different funds and they've got a lot of money in the bank. I mean, I'm not saying I think they ought to do it, but I'm just curious.
It's one of those gray that the greenhouse would be ag program, not necessarily, I mean, FFA would use. So I think it could be a discussion of would they contribute some? I don't disagree with that.
I mean, they could gift.
Yeah.
Auditors, maybe that's what they have to do is they
Yeah.
contribute a certain amount.
Right.
Because the auditors are gonna come in and tell us you can't use this for that.
It'd have to be done the right way, but I mean, there's a lot of money in those accounts what are they gonna do with it? I'm not saying they should, that's just a question I had, so.
It's a good idea.
But I'd recommend approval of this. We can.
I'd approve the greenhouse bid as shown and this amount is approved, but it might cost less with the grants and stuff that come in. Yeah.
Second.
Moved by Fisher, second by Wilson to approve the greenhouse system, Raymond greenhouse system quote of $46,763. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Okay. Ratification of 2021-22 negotiated agreement with Green County Education Association.
And I'd recommend that approve ratification of that agreement. Really want to thank Mr. Jackson and Mr. Colleen.
You too, Tim.
We worked it out in one evening, not anticipating that we would, and just got together. And to me, of any year, it's one of those that there's enough stuff going on that it's just good to get it knocked out, taken care of.
So we just have to approve it.
Yeah, and again, it's basically a 2.999%. There's an increase to the base, but then also an increase to the longevity from 3 to 3.5%.
So I move to approve the ratification of the 2021-22 negotiation agreement with the GCEA.
I'm going to abstain, so you'll have to second it. Yeah.
Motion by Wilson, second by McConnell to approve the 2021-22 negotiated agreement with Green County Education Association. Please call the roll.
Fisher.
I abstain since my wife's on staff.
McConnell.
All right.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. So next is the administrative and classified staff wage and salary recommendations. And the bus drivers are already on a negotiated agreement. We're in the third year of that, so that'll come up next year.
Yeah.
Renew. Otherwise, kind of trying to align some of these correct. Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I don't know, Steve, whether you want to comment on administrative classified.
Yeah, we went over all this and it all looked very reasonable. Do I need to, and it's not listed on here that you did not take
I'm not
increase in
requesting
salary, but he's
increase.
taking additional vacation days instead. So I think that was reasonable and fine. So yeah, we didn't have any concerns with it. It all looks good. Everybody's certainly deserving of it.
The administrative package, again, would be 3%, and that includes insurance and everything, so in line. The classified is 3%. Food service is 3.5%, it's just a little bit more.
And that was just to kind of bring them up to a little higher standard because they were lagging. So, yeah.
Yeah, probably not a high wage to begin with.
No. I guess I could move this one. I'll make the motion that we approve these salary increases as stated.
Second.
Moved by Fisher, second by Wilson to approve the wage salary recommendations for administrative classified staff. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Okay, then we need to approve the contracts for all this long list of folks, correct? And we'd like to do them all together, apparently.
Just do one motion, unless there's
One
something
motion.
you feel the need to pull out. Is there anything,
To approve the issuance of contracts to all these people.
is there anything that we need to talk about, or just, that's basically what we just talked about, isn't it? So
I think so, yeah.
I move that we approve the 2021-22 contracts list to approve issuance.
Second.
Moved by Wilson, seconded by McConnell to approve the 2021-22 contracts with the list that we have in front of us. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Harmer,
Aye. Okay. 20 certified budget.
Yeah, basically need to set
We did that
public,
in
yeah,
in the work session. We just need to set
public
public
hearing,
hearing, which is April
April 12th at 5:15.
12th at 5:15.
I so move. Can I say that?
Second.
You know Brenda's writing
Moved
down
and
on
seconded
it.
to have the public hearing for certified budget set at April 12th at 5:15. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Harmer.
Aye. And then we have an amendment to that.
Again, we need to amend the budget. We've got federal funds through COVID relief and everything that we've spent that were not part of the original budgets, that we need to set a public hearing for budget amendment,
So we have to have a public
public hearing to
for
amend.
that as well. And that's like some of the money that we're going to go ahead and proceed with the
Correct.
ventilation in the school.
And we got some other monies before too that were
Right.
purchased some Chromebooks and everything.
Okay.
With the same date.
Yes.
April.
And
They'll
I-
just be right after each other,
After,
so just
I'll move to set a public hearing for the budget amendment, April 15th.
Second.
Moved by McConnell, seconded by Wilson. Please call the roll.
Fisher,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Harmer.
Aye. Okay, board policy revisions. And Tim would like us to put 1 and 2 together and 3 and 4 together. 1 and 2 have to do with classified staff vacations and holidays and classified staff personal leave.
Yeah, the first two there, at the present time, and again, I don't know, I mean, I'm not sure how all the stuff got started, but cooks and bus drivers currently only receive one paid holiday, which is Christmas Day. In exchange, I mean, not necessarily in exchange, but they get 3 personal days and can carry over to 5. Whereas other staff members get 2 and can carry over to 4. So would like to recommend that on the first policy, again, this is first reading, but on the first policy, bus drivers and cooks would get holidays, paid holidays if they're working, which is the similar as other, as associates, other classified staff. And then the change on the second one, instead of 3 personal days, they'd get 2 personal days and carry over up to 4. So we would basically put bus drivers and cooks that would be consistent with other classified staff.
So you said this is just a first reading?
This first reading, yeah. And then
So we don't have to approve anything.
we do need to approve a first reading, but I don't know whether you want to do all of them.
Let's do these 2 together and the next
Okay.
2 together. And yeah, let's
So
do that.
we need a motion to approve the first reading of classified staff vacation and holidays and classified staff personal leave.
Also moved.
Second.
Moved by Fisher, second by McConnell for what we just talked about. Just call it
B413.
Getting tired.
Wilson,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Harmer.
Aye. All right, now we're on the 500 series.
We got
Fundraisers and appropriate use of public funds.
we get feedback from over the audit that when there's fundraising done specifically for scholarships, again, at the time of the fundraising, it needs to be noted on all flyers and communication that percentage, part of these funds will go towards providing a scholarship. And then immediately upon the fundraiser being over, they've got to designate, $500 is going into the scholarship fund, and then business office needs to transfer those funds in there, and then those funds can be used for a scholarship. And then that second policy just kind of refers to the first one. So just need to clean up on those.
What's the difference about what we were doing before?
Well, if they raised, they
To me, they didn't always note that some of these funds are going to go for
so like
scholarship.
you're buying stuff
From
and,
FFA and.
yeah. The whole thing about this is that the student activity fund is for all students. Well, if you're giving scholarships, that's one student. That's what it's about.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
So what fundraising was ended up when the scholarships?
Student Council does fundraising, National Honor Society does fundraising that goes towards scholarships.
Okay.
Well, they need to say that, but
Correct.
yes.
Right.
But in the past, so they've done that.
It's kind of like,
They
you
can
can't
continue
say,
to do that.
you said FFA has a lot of money. Well, they can't all of a sudden decide they're gonna give it all out for scholarships this certain year because they just happen to have money.
Yeah.
Because they didn't raise that money saying that they might give scholarships. That's what it's kind of about.
Yeah. Chalk it up to auditors.
Anyway, I don't like getting written up by an audit,
So that's just that one? Is it just 5047?
It's actually both
It's
of them.
number
The
three,
one
number
refers back to the other policy.
So it's 705.5 plus 905.1?
No.
504.7 and 705.5.
Oh, okay, all right.
Number 3 and number 4.
Yeah, okay, there you go, thank you.
I move that we approve the change in the policy for 504.7 fundraisers and 705.5 appropriate use of funds.
Second.
Moved by Wilson, second by Fisher. Please call the roll.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Next one has to do with community use of school district buildings and sites and equipment. I think the big thing is a $250 deposit required.
Is that a one-time
Would have to
policy?
be,
One-time deposit? Like say it's Little League's
You'll get
gonna
it
use
back.
it
You'll get it back as long as you put things back in the.
every time.
yeah, most of these things, when you look later on, are $0 per hour, but some of them are, you use the gym in the elementary school is $25 an hour. In the middle school is $25 an hour. In the high school, it's $50 an hour.
It'll be like for a season. if
Okay,
you're talking
okay,
about.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a weekly. For
And we didn't do that before. We didn't have a deposit.
No, we didn't have a deposit.
They're a lot more expensive facilities now.
Yeah.
And again, I want to commend Misty and Todd did a lot of work and got a lot of. I'll let you maybe discuss the work that you did and feedback. The policies you.
I looked around at schools in our area, and then I also looked at some schools that were newer facilities in other states and just kind of did my search there. And so the prices I feel like that we put on here are not out of line with our area. And some of the things that they had, like there was a school in Arizona that was just phenomenal, and they were a new facility, and you could tell that they had a lot of, wanting to take care of their things and keep their things nice. And then I spoke with people who are, custodians who are monitoring things. And, I didn't realize before I started working on this that when we were prepping the field for other people to use, that was on our own time and our own dime. And so just kind of adding those things in there. And people in the community may grumble about that, but that's kind of part of where we are. It's the fact of spending tax dollars appropriately. And, compensating our people for their extra effort if they're doing it on their own to make something for the community better.
So this is kind of a normal thing.
Yeah, I would say
even around here though, it's pretty normal.
I looked at Perry's, Gilbert's, and North Polk's is kind of where I pulled stuff from locally. And Ames, I use a little bit of Ames.
So when you're per hour, is that from, say I want the gym from Thursday night to Saturday night, is that per hour when I take it at 6 till I turn it back at Or is that when it's?
Or is it more like a skid loader you rent by the hour and the hour meter
Yeah,
for the
that's,
event?
I mean, is it, if I'm gonna have it for 2.5 days, and
My
it's
opinion
$100
is-
an hour, that's 10 grand.
And this is just my opinion.
I'm just
If
curious.
you put on a reservation that you want it from, let's say Thursday night to Sunday night, but Thursdays from 6 to 10 and you're out at 10, I don't think that you should be charged for that 10 a.m. to 8 a.m. the next morning when you're not using it, or 3 p.m. But that's my thoughts.
I would agree that it's usage time. It's not.
Right.
It's not.
Who has to deal with this? Is this you? Just so it's.
I'm just
Oh,
curious.
you're
I
not supposed to deal with it.
There you go.
Back to Park.
And again, that's part of it.
Misty, for say the dance recital people or the community players, would that be including practices and all of that too?
That would be how it reads. So if you're gonna be in, for Thursday nights before, that's how it reads, and that's how a lot of facilities are working that.
In the past, it was to pay the janitor's time. Is this kind of comparable? Or
There's a difference between for-profit and nonprofit.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, the dance studio is different than the community players.
Right.
But everybody does have to do the deposit, and everybody does have to have that proof of insurance. And that's a really important piece of that keep the insurance. If you do something, let's say community players do something, and that's crazy how fast that stuff adds up.
Right. I just am wondering if this would, the stage needs to be used so that they're used to it and everything. This would be,
Absolutely.
it could be 2 weeks or more of performance or practice.
It's $0 per hour for
A nonprofit.
district organizations and nonprofit Greene County organizations. These other numbers are for out-of-district organizations.
You wouldn't, you would have to pay a
You
deposit.
have to do a deposit.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And
I think
then
that's
there are
very fair.
additional fees, like,
Right.
some of the things that we put in is that we wanted,
Right. And to be,
to have our trained people. We don't want to just throw somebody to the side. We don't want to do
absolutely.
a soundboard or
Well,
lights.
and that would be the main thing. I mean, I'm very interested in keeping that light board pristine too.
Nice,
So no matter who.
Just curious, Misty, these rates, what kind of an increase or do they reflect overall, would you say? I mean, is there an increase on most everything or is?
I don't know if we ever.
You didn't have a rate
Anything.
before, okay.
So I don't know if that was a communications failing on my part, where somebody would just call me and they want to be put on. So-
Like before,
The dance studio,
for the middle school gym, well, of course, we didn't have this gym before. Like for the elementary gym, it says $25 an hour. Is that what it was before?
Yes, but again, majority of people using it we're not charging in district people to use it other than custodial fees and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
So this would be like,
If AAU.
Mike Denmark said, they're looking for a place for the state AAU wrestling tournament.
Right.
So if we rented our gymnasium to them, they would be paying these $1 per hours.
Yes.
If our local wrestling club was gonna do it, they're paying $0 per hour. Because they're.
You mean the rec
well,
centers?
not if they're charging people and making
No,
a
it's
profit.
different
No,
profit,
that's
but
a whole
so-
different issue.
But your dance,
Yes, they're for profit, so
They're
they
for
will
profit.
be, and she
so
paid it now.
the community players is a nonprofit or they're?
No, they are for profit, the community players are. I mean, they're on a shoestring for sure.
Yeah.
So, and I think for performance nights, I think that's reasonable, but.
Is it really a for profit though? I mean, you guys are just trying to make your expenses.
Right, yeah, well, that's-
Nobody's making a livelihood by it.
No, I mean, it's.
So I don't know, how
Absolutely
do you
not.
classify that?
I think not for profit maybe. I mean, I don't know that you have to have papers.
We're not a 50 or 501(c)(4), for
I
instance.
guess I don't know how to define district organizations either.
There's the one thing in there that, I don't know if it's on the page, but if 70% of the,
70% of the participants are.
again, if we've got a basketball thing, if 70% of the kids participating in that are our kids, then they fall into that category. Whereas, if we've got this all-star team from across the state that we've got one of our kids, okay, then you fall in the category you're being charged.
That makes
with.
sense then.
I'm sure Missy will keep it all square.
And then this money goes to the activities fund?
I am guessing that the auditor would say no, because it's our facilities, it's our electricity, it's
So
our
general.
water, it's our, yes, it would be general, rent goes in the general fund.
It'd be really nice if it could go to the activity.
We pay for coaches, we pay for electricity, we pay for
I know,
water, we pay for
I wonder, we
custodial.
rent the auditorium about 6 times a year, and pay for it.
It's all the same pot at the end of the day.
Paying the janitor and $15 an hour to unlock the doors.
Well, that's hard.
I mean, I don't know how we're gonna,
But if they have to come out of their house or unlock, I mean, on your day off, then I don't know.
that goes back to my question though. I'm gonna use it, say I start using it Thursday at 4. I'm just gonna use the dance studio as a reference because I got a lot of years there. And so you start at 4. So now I'm starting to rack up $100 an hour in the auditorium. Now, right or wrong, I don't know. These questions are gonna come. And more directly, they're gonna come right to me.
To your point of custodial, the one thing that I think that we try to do our best of is if custodian X is working from 4 to 7, that's their regular hours. They're already working, so the $15 an hour doesn't start until they jump into when they're not working, if that makes sense.
It does, but that goes back to my question. I rented it at 4 on Thursday and I don't give it up till 6 p.m. on Sunday. And you got $40 an hour janitor, $15 an hour lock and unlock doors. You got $50 an hour for the sound, $50 an hour for the lights. How does that break out over 70 hours worth of time? I think.
Again,
I get it, but
yeah, the expectation would be, put down on a sheet of paper what you're doing over the course of these days. You get that to Misty, and then Misty will generate, this is the projected cost of that based on what your usage is, and this is what our custodial hours are, and everything like that.
Sure.
Are 70% of the girls in dance from our school?
Well, that's the
I'm
thing,
just
if
kidding.
we're not, if it's not a 5014, which the players aren't, and I'm sure the dance studio isn't. And for the dance people for sure too, they practice before they perform. Well, the players practice before they perform a lot. And so we won't be, there's no way. There's absolutely no way.
The other point though Todd and I had the conversation, you've got to start somewhere. And after you start, we may find, okay, that's ridiculous. So then how do you adjust?
the other thing that we have to take in consideration, obviously you compare to Ames, Gilbert, North Polk.
Perry.
Perry would be your closest one.
Yeah.
But we're small town Green County. We're gonna charge
Ames
a
prices.
dance studio $10,000 a weekend or whatever it is. But I get it, we got a big building to pay for.
North Polk and Gilbert, are either in our conference or former people that were in our conference, and they both have newer facilities, and that's.
I think what he's saying though is if you look at the poverty level of Greene County, we're at 45% and Gilbert's at 3%. So what he's saying is
you sell a dance studio, you sell a dance recital at North Pole. Right or wrong, they might sell tickets for $22 a piece. Sue can't sell tickets for $22 a piece to come to a dance recital here. So I get it, but I don't get it. I get it. We got to start somewhere. We got to have some sort of baseline because we need to get paid for it. That's why we built it. But I think we got to figure out the gray areas.
But I also think that some of the things in the community and some of the support that came for all of this to vote for the bond issue and things like that were probably from Sue. The players are small fish compared to her, but no, I'm being honest. That you have to climb over people if you're going to go to every one of her shows. And then, that this was going to be something that was going to be great there.
And again, not knowing, not saying anything good or bad, with being able to seat 700, is she going to continue to do as many I don't know, or maybe you don't need the Sunday performance because you can.
My intentions I've heard is that she's trying to get to 2 instead of 4.
And with a bigger auditorium, that'd be a lot more feasible, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you see twice as many people, but.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was just curious how you figure it out.
Wouldn't you say that some of this would be negotiable in certain cases?
I did include that asterisk.
You did not?
I know
She
I
did, so.
Oh, yeah.
This is a baseline, Misty, do you feel like this is a baseline for you that you can kind of go, this is what we, but
And I think that
everything
if,
is.
I've been, again, communicating with your daughter-in-law, I think if she puts everything together and Misty runs it out and it is $10,000, it's like, oh crap, that doesn't make sense.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And not saying she shouldn't pay good money to do it. I mean, that's why we have it. That's the whole purpose behind having all that stuff is,
right.
I mean, that was one of my big pitches to do the school and the gym. It's like, we gotta do stuff big enough or nice enough that we can do things here.
So what would she have paid last year?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It seems to me
I
like
don't have a clue what.
I did nothing last year. Nothing last year. Last year was nothing to look at.
Last year, it was-
But I'm remembering like $600 or
That's,
something.
I was thinking $700-800.
Yeah,
The ballpark.
I have no idea.
like she paid
I
like
just did all the
something
work.
deposit and then it was like 600 at the end, so.
For the players, often we extended beyond what the custodian's normal hours were, so we would pay for that during rehearsal time. And then whatever the normal rental fee was. But if it's in the thousands of dollars, then we're not performing anymore. And the organization is gone too, because there's no other theater.
I'm pretty sure we just charged your custodian.
Was it just custodian?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Fisherman.
But
either way.
There isn't a glitter policy.
No what?
No glitter. That's the one thing that I kept hearing from a lot, not just our custodians, but a lot.
No glitter, like they can't.
Glitter.
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 I thought you said glitter and I don't know that.
Glitter.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I got no.
It gets
control.
everywhere.
I'm pretty well out of
I have
it.
a doctor joke for that. But I'm
We
not sure.
better wait till the cameras are off.
The mics anyway.
And the microphones.
But I'd recommend approving first reading of this. And
Well, I would move. Oh, go ahead.
I had a concerned parent not being able to get in and use the gyms right now because they're waiting for this to be. Is there any way to make that happen? They were saying that they were told that they couldn't get into the gyms because we hadn't done this yet.
I think this first reading would then allow them
Okay.
to Misty to get a price for them to be able to say,
Okay.
this is what it's going to cost you.
So this is the idea of the. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I'll make the motion that we approve BP 905.1, the community use of school facilities policy.
Second.
This is the first reading.
As we approve the reading. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Moved and seconded. The first reading of School District Community Relations Policy Series 900. Please call a roll.
Wilson. McConnell.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Board policy review.
I did not see any changes going through that grouping of board policies. So would recommend that be approved.
I move that we approve board policy review 604.9 to 605.3D. That first reading or we're just gonna?
We just do the
Right, yeah.
review. We
Let's
just
go on.
review. Yeah.
Second.
Moved by Wilson, second by McConnell for approval of board policy 604.9 to 605.3. Please call the roll.
Did we get a second? Who seconded?
John.
Yeah.
John.
You're just so quiet later. Fisher.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Carver.
Aye. Fundraisers.
Got several fundraisers. Recommend approval for those. I do just want to get, the board has not been lax, but people have been, to me, not doing as good a job as they could to get the fundraising requests in a timely manner and everything. And I did share with people that they're not to do a fundraiser if it has not been approved by the board. And if they do that, likely it won't be approved in future. So just giving you a heads up on that, we're doing this for a purpose. And But I would recommend approving all these.
Move to approve all the fundraisers as listed.
Second.
Moved by Wilson, second by McConnell to approve the fundraiser requests. Let's call the roll.
Wilson,
Aye.
McConnell,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Farmer.
Aye.
Your voice changed.
I was just thinking that, because I've got a really low voice, or Steve's got a high one.
Financial audit report.
It is actually 74 pages long, and I'll send you an electronic copy if you want it.
Please
But-
don't.
Yeah, but they do actually give every board member their own letter that points out the highlights. It is I think a fairly clean audit. There's always something that they bring up. One of it was the scholarship thing. What was the other one that was, the thing about, they didn't like that we gave that scholarship money to the foundation.
Which we're getting a letter from our attorneys on that.
I also moved some money between the capital projects and physical plant and equipment levy couple to cover some of the land that we bought for the ground, the school. And, thinking that just, it was enough just to be in a list of bills, and it wasn't. They said there should have been a real resolution to do that, so. Anyway.
To purchase the land for the high school.
Well, I paid for it out of capital projects, and then we decided that should have been done out of capital instead. And I just moved the funds through writing a check and having them a list of bills.
They said there should have been a resolution to change that.
To move it
designation
from one
of
fund to
funds.
another.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway,
Well,
you don't need to approve this. This is just more informational.
All right.
The audit's been done and it was. But if you want the full one, let me know and I'll send it to you.
Good job, Brenda.
Yeah, very good. They did a good job. Yeah. Our people, not the others.
Oh, it was all virtual this year too, which was.
So we don't have to approve.
No.
It's for.
Which was more work for us, kind of, being virtual. We had to send them a lot
Yeah.
of things.
Paying in thousands of cash receipts.
Yeah, that was worse.
Wow.
Anyway, okay.
Superintendent's report.
I want to echo the comments been made before about how fantastic the play was and recognize Mr. Jackson, Mr. Heupel, Mr. Anderson, the students. But also like to shout out to Grove Green County in particular, funding for that, auditorium and gym, as well as taxpayers in general, because it's, just the venue. You guys did a fantastic job, but to be in that venue to watch it was outstanding. So commend everybody for that. Just note, next week on spring break, business office basically is going to be closed. People are going to be going here, there, and everywhere. So I just want to let you know that. Quite a few things with the Career Academy promotions coming up. I'll be going to the Derek Casey Guthrie Center board meeting Monday night to share some information with them about Career Academy. We've got Ogden CTE teachers coming over the 31st of March to review things, look at it. And then we're working on lunch and learns with the schools in the area to bring students in to look at Career Academy and have lunch and do some things like that.
And who was that in the last one? Just general?
Just inviting all the schools to
Okay.
to a lunch and learn to bring students to be able to view things. And we kind of mentioned before, but the second round of vaccinations is Friday. And knock on wood, and Catherine and I have kind of texted back and forth a little bit. I don't know if you saw West Liberty School ended up canceling school on Monday because they had too many teachers gone. We had our first round a week ago Friday, and yes, some people didn't feel well over the weekend, but we didn't have anybody that missed on.
First group of second round.
Yeah, what's that?
First group of second
Correct,
round.
yes, the first group of the second. And again, we've got the second group with the second shot this Friday. And luckily, we've got spring break the following week, so.
Spring break to get done.
Well, in West Liberty did their vaccinations over the weekend. So
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I wondered how they were still sick on Monday.
It was either Saturday or Sunday
Okay,
that
I
they
didn't-
got their second
That makes more
vaccination. And by
sense.
Monday,
That
they
makes more
felt
sense.
just like I did. 24 hours after my second vaccination.
They got those set up just right for our teachers, I think.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
I-
nice.
I know that it was a challenge for public health to be able to do the Fridays, but that was
Yeah, thank you.
really good.
Yeah, the first one was actually a snow or a late start that threw a wrench into stuff. But yeah, appreciate the public health for doing that. But that's all I got.
Okay.